I stand on the rotting wood of the dock leading out to the Rio Grande, careful that my soft feet aren't pierced by a splinter or stray nail. A moment is taken to enjoy the trickling sound of the river and the buzzing of insects singing their mating song. During the day, this stretch of the Rio Grande, which runs through the Texas town of New Braunfels, is congested with inner-tube sailing, beer-guzzling tourists effectively turning the river into a carnival freak show of body behavior. Once the sun set, however, a calm overtakes the river, and it is almost as if nature has reclaimed her serenity. But I am not here to appreciate the sights and sounds of the river. A cool air causes my small frame to tremble. Texas nights can be deceptively chilly this time of year, especially at night. Of course, my garb wasn't helping matters. Wet and with only a pair of shorts and my bikini top to cover me, I wasn't exactly in the right dress for the grim undertaking ahead of me. I looked to my prize, a 40-year-old man at the end of the dock. His arms and legs are strapped to a rusty old tetherball pole with a concrete base precariously positioned at the end of a dock. Dried blood cakes his lips from where I'd earlier struck him with a shovel. You stand accused of first-degree murder and rape of a minor. How do you plead? My voice is clear and full of authority, superseding my body's years. Still dazed, the man looks up at me. With my sweet freckled face, shoulder-length red hair, and nimble body which weighed not much over 90 pounds, no one would ever believe that I'd beaten and hog-tied the man who would have dominated me in just about every way if we'd been placed in a ring together. Those people didn't know me. How do you plead? I ask again when he does not answer. I hold a long, cruel survival knife in my right hand. Just like the one John Rambo carried. I'd taken it from a man who was anything but Rambo. A blonde-haired, round-jawed yuppie had drawn this knife on me. Now he was tied to a pole. Another pause. The accused shakes his head, regaining some of his cognitive functions. As soon as he does, he looks up at me, working the kindest smile in the county. "May, honey bear," he said in that voice which ran sweet as nectar, "what is this all about?" 17 years ago you committed an unthinkable crime, I respond, then took a breath, not wanting to lose myself in this all-important moment. It took every bit of restraint not to slit the bastard's throat right this instant. A crime which you were set on committing again tonight. I don't know, he begins, but I cut him off. Nicole Thompson. My words ring over the sound of the river as a hushed whisper, almost as if I'd recited a witch's spell. The accused visibly squirms, his mouth no doubt dry as he attempts to muster a rebuttal. "May, what on earth are you talking about? You're accusing me of crimes you weren't alive to see." "Wrong. I was born June 3, 1998. The same day you murdered Nicole." I take another deep breath. Keeping my composure under these circumstances is difficult. Nicole was a simple girl. A cute young lady who always obeyed her mother and father, didn't stay out late, and was at church every Sunday. She hoped to play the violin someday. She didn't get to. Why didn't she? I don't dash because of you. I raise my voice just short of a shout before driving the knife deep into the wood of the dock. Stuck. You raped her. Then you cut her into so many pieces that not even her own parents could recognize what had once been their baby girl. He shook his head in disbelief. Who the fuck do you think you are? The simple girl born to bring you to justice. What I said was true. May Sanders had been born solely to put this man's life to an end, but my life didn't begin 17 years ago. Believe it or not, 7 months ago I was a robust man of 48. Frank Marsh was my name, and I served 25 grueling years as a homicide detective for the Houston Police Department. It was a career cut short by a hoodlum's bullets in an Exxon Tiger Mart. Rather than being shuffled off this mortal coil like another diseased animal, I was given second chance to solve the case which had long haunted my nightmares. The light, a supernatural force which I could never hope to explain, saw it fit to bring me back to put a close to the case that had ate away at my gut. It brought me back as May, the 16-year-old daughter of Joseph and Edith Sanders. It was quite a shock, let me tell you. One moment I'm bleeding out on the floor of a gas station, the next I'm in the back seat of the Sanders sedan with long red hair tickling my nose and the weight of small, firm breasts on my chest. It'd be enough to drive a fella mad, and indeed I nearly succumbed to hysteria. That's when this being of light gave me guidance. It knew of Nicole and my determination to find her killer. Speaking to me, it praised my values as a cop and offered me the chance to bring Nicole's killer. Immediately I knew the cruel catch to this offer, why I'd been brought back as this young woman. I was going to be the bait that would bring the killer out of hiding. A sweet young girl not unlike Nicole. A lesser man likely would have cracked and wished death over such emasculation, but I saw not to look a gift horse in the mouth. I would play by this celestial being's rules and would see to it that Nicole's killer was brought to justice. And that's how I came to spend the past 7 months as May Sanders, a red-haired Texas girl with a spunky attitude. I had to teach myself how to dress in bright shades of pink and yellow, revisit high school, deal with the wandering eyes of teenage boys, and boorish adults who should know better. All of those physical and mental trials had led to this moment. While preparing for the ordeals of being a teenage girl, I also didn't slack when it came to preparing for the eventual confrontation I'd been reborn for. I made sure to keep a sharp lookout for any potential threats who could match Nicole's killer, and thought up strategies for how I could take the man down once I found him. I approached my new father, asked him to instruct me in firearms, which he questioned at first, but quickly gave in, no doubt wanting some quality bonding time with his daughter. This is Texas after all, and nothing seems to please a father more than to take his child to their first shooting range. There he was immediately shocked by how easily I picked up on things, but it filled his breast with pride. In addition to the target practice, and getting used to the strength of my new body, it also allowed me to memorize the code to Father's gun safe. By the end of all this, I was sure that I'd be ready the instant the killer revealed himself. But you can never truly be prepared to meet the face of evil. Over spring break, having grown comfortable in a bikini, I'd been enjoying my time on the Rio Grande. At the twilight hour, I was enjoying one last tube ride down the rapids. As I approached the steps to the dock which would lead back to my new family's river house, he revealed himself. "May," he said in such a tone as to send shivers straight to my soul. He spoke longer, but I didn't need anything else to confirm it. I'd seen this man numerous times at school and at social events. His smile warmed the heart, and he appeared as if he belonged in a sitcom as the perfect all-American dad. All that time he'd been hiding in plain sight, and I hadn't realized it until his intentions were laid bare. Too bad for him, he'd chosen the wrong girl. I threw my inner tube at him and dashed to his right before he could respond. As I made it past him, I could see the glint of knife. I had no weapons, and would have to act fast. He made an attempt to grab at me, but I was too fast. Of course, he gave chase. As I ran, I ditched my flip-flops to provide greater maneuverability as I ran. If I'd been in my old body, I could have easily overpowered this brute, but I wasn't Detective Marsh. I was May Sanders, 90-pound girl wearing nothing but board shorts and halter bikini top. A construction site was my target. Some rich folks' house was washed away in the last flood, and they were hoping to rebuild. I don't know how this house would ultimately fare compared to their previous one, but I knew it was the perfect opportunity to surprise my assailant. Picking a shovel as my instrument of choice, I waited behind the corner of the unfinished hallway. I knew if I botched this up I was a goner and some other detective would undoubtedly be left scratching his head over my murder for the next 17 years. Thankfully my attacker wasn't too bright when it came down to the chase. Clearly he didn't expect his prize to be ready for him, or else he'd have been careful to slow his steps, or at least remove those boots which thundered along. The thunder approached and I pulled back the shovel, ready to hit the home run of my career. Closer, closer. Closer, closer now. Wham! As he came around the corner his face connected with my blow. I was tempted to yell timber as he fell, but managed to restrain myself. From there it wasn't difficult to restrain him and use a wheelbarrow to bring him to the abandoned dock where his final judgment would be dealt. "You can't possibly know about her," he stammers. "Not such a cool cucumber now, are you slick?" "I know a lot of things. I know how she died." "Just as I know how you'll die," I said with great relish. I approached him and placed a hand on his chest. This caused him to cringe. I could feel his heartbeat coming through strong as if the organ was attempting to flee the body. Funny how one so small as May Sanders now had this vile creature reeling in horror. I wanted to make this man suffer as Nicole had. As I would have if he'd had his way. But I refused to bring myself down to his level. He isn't worth the time. A kick was all it took to send him down to the inky abyss, screaming all the way. I waited until the last bubble had broken the surface before leaving the scene. A monumental weight had finally been lifted from my shoulders. A thought occurs to me that my new parents must be worried sick and I take off, being sure to pick up my flip-flops on the way. I feel a new energy coursing through my veins as if all the doubts and worries of my past have been taken down to the lake with him. For the first time in 16 years I am free. Once at the family river house I immediately realized how hungry I was. Luckily, I smelled the enticing scent of the meat on the grill as I walked up the slope leading from the river to my family's modest estate. "May, sweetie," my new mother exclaimed with great concern. "You said you were only taking one last run down the rapids. What took you so long?" "Nothing, Mom," I said in the perfect tone of a dismissive teen. "I just got a bit distracted on the way back." "Well, just you remember it's a mother's duty to worry." I sat myself at the table where a steaming hot dog and wide array of condiments awaited. There were so many things left in my future. I still needed to finish reading 1984 for my English class, 3 chapters of American history. Then the prom was coming up, and although I was but a junior, I knew a few fellas who loved giving me the eye, so dress selection was bound to be on the horizon. The thought of being prettied up for a dance made me blush, and almost elicited a giggle. A simple girl's work is never done.